Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me in wonderful Athens and at this wonderful conference. The organization by SETE has been outstanding so far. My name is Menno van Ijssel, and I'm a project manager in the research department of the European Travel Commission. And I'm very happy to be here today to share with you some results that we see in our research at the European Travel Commission, and I'll be touching a little bit on the latest travel trends that we are seeing in 2025 and 2026, touching a bit upon the demand levels and the changing behavior amongst tourists that we are seeing. Before getting into the results and the data itself, however, because I will be sharing a lot of numbers with you, but a little bit about the European Travel Commission itself. We are an association of the national tourism organizations of 35 countries in Europe. That includes also the Greek National Tourism Organization. And we work on behalf of our members and for our members to strengthen the sustainable development and the competitiveness of Europe as a tourist destination. And we do so kind of through three pillars. So the first pillar is research, which is where I work, and where we work on knowledge gathering and sharing amongst members. The second pillar is advocacy, where we work with the European institutions in Brussels. And the third pillar is marketing, where we work on the promotion of Europe and European countries in overseas markets. Going a bit into my presentation today, so I'll be touching a little bit on the travel demand that we are seeing in 2025 and 2026. After that, I'll go into the changes that we are seeing in traveler intentions and traveler behavior, and I'll finish off with some key takeaways for you. So starting with travel demand. The first kind of big overarching trend that I want to share with you today is that we see that tourism in Europe continues to grow. After having already reached pre-pandemic levels last year, we see that now in 2025, international arrivals to Europe have increased by another 3% year on year. And we see that spending on tourism in Europe has grown even more by almost 10%. And if I understood correctly, this also reflects a little bit the situation in Greece. But this tells us a very important kind of first message, which is that despite the increasing cost of travel, because it has also become more expensive to travel, consumers, they really continue to prioritize it within their discretionary spending. We live in a world today where everyone wants to travel, and it is deeply important to them. Looking at it a bit more on a country-by-country basis, this is data from our Q3 report, so it reflects the situation just after the summer. And we see various trends here. First of all, we see that, for example, Northern European countries, Norway and Finland, are performing very well with some of the highest year-on-year growth rates. They are really benefiting from that kind of coolcations trend that you read a lot about nowadays. But we also see that Southern European destinations continue to perform really well and see very solid demand. This is reflected in Mediterranean island destinations such as Malta and Cyprus, which show very high year-on-year growth. But also the more traditional, established, larger Southern European destinations such as Spain, Italy, Portugal, and also Greece. They continue to see very solid demand. And then thirdly, another thing that we are seeing here is that destinations that are traditionally known or that are able to present themselves as being very price competitive are now also seeing very strong increases in travelers, including, for example, Poland or Latvia or even Hungary. And while we do not have the data yet for the autumn and the beginning of the winter regarding arrivals, we do see in terms of intentions to travel, again, that this demand remains very resilient. So looking at long-haul markets, we see that 38% of survey respondents said that they plan to travel to Europe between August and December of this year. And that percentage is exactly the same as it was a year ago. And then looking at Europeans, about 73% of Europeans said that they plan to travel within Europe between October 2025 and March 2026. And that percentage is also exactly the same as it was a year ago. So that reflects again that people really want to continue traveling. Looking a bit further ahead at 2026, this is based on data from Tourism Economics, which is available on our website. We have a publicly available dashboard. And what we see and what we expect is that tourist arrivals to Europe will increase another 6.8% in 2026. And that will consist of about 119 million non-European arrivals and about 650 million intra-European arrivals. So having that kind of basis of very resilient consumer demand for travel, the next kind of topic that I want to touch a bit upon is, okay, then where do we see that traveler behavior or traveler intentions are changing or are shifting? And I guess the first point I would like to share in that regard is that we do see a starting shift in terms of the timing of trips. So this is based on a survey of 8 of Europe's top source markets, in which 28% of consumers said that they plan to change the timing of their trip over during the next 2 years. 28%. And then when we ask, okay, what are the reasons that these people plan to change the timing? The biggest reason is to avoid crowds. The second biggest reason is to save money. And the third biggest reason is to avoid extreme weather. So these are very important things to consider for the industry with regards to changing traveler behavior. And touching a bit on that last point of avoiding extreme temperatures, in our intra-European research, we asked Europeans to what extent climate change is affecting their travel habits. And we saw that more than 3/4 of Europeans indicated that they've adopted at least one change in their travel behavior because of climate change. And this number is very high because it includes both bigger changes, such as changing indeed the timing of the trip or changing even the destination, but it also includes smaller changes, such as checking weather forecasts more frequently before booking a trip, or choosing activities inside the destination that are not so dependent on weather. And then lastly, having touched a bit on the timing of trips and the effects of climate change, another point where we see changing behavior is that now half of Europeans say that they seek less popular or off-the-beaten-track destinations in Europe. This is mainly evident with Austrian, Belgian, and Dutch travelers, but in general for Europe, 40% of travelers say they will choose a destination which is less popular, and another 10% say they really want to go remote or off the beaten track to really kind of disconnect during their holidays. So, having gone a bit into this changing behavior and these different kind of trips that travelers will start to increasingly take, the next question is how do they research or plan those trips? And that's where we see another change, which is that the use of artificial intelligence or AI as a tool in planning or researching trips is also increasing. In Q3 of 2025, it was about 18% of consumers that used AI to plan their trip, and that is 8% higher than 2024. And it is also important to note that This number is even higher when looking at American travelers, where already 27% of consumers use AI to plan or research their trips, and even higher with Chinese travelers, where it's about 40% of consumers who use AI to plan their trips. And then comparing it to other information sources, what we see is that AI might be still below other information sources, traditional information sources, such as online travel agents, or review sites, or social media, or even offline personal recommendations. But where those other information sources are mostly decreasing in share, AI is increasing in share, and it is really eating away at those other information sources. So that was very quick, a lot of numbers, very quick, but to present the main takeaways from that, what we see is that travel and tourism demand remains very resilient. We see that factors including climate change and crowding are increasingly affecting traveler behavior, also costs. And we see that now with the development of AI, people have a lot more access to information, a much easier access to information. So it makes it also easier for them to plan these off-the-beaten-track trips and off-season travel. So for destinations and for industry stakeholders, to be able to be visible to these travelers and to be able to influence traveler behavior, you really have to make sure that you are, or the information that you have is picked up by these AI kind of tools. And that's it. I'll finish off by saying that all this data and all these findings are available on our website in the various reports that we have and in the dashboard that we have on our website. Thank you again for having me, and I'll be around if you have any questions or anything. I'm happy to discuss. Thank you.